Another issue is got a phone call off-site again. A can't connect to the VPN, and after asking some questions, how are you connected? Are you getting a wireless network? He was getting a wireless network, but not able to get out. And I asked him what he was using, and all of his lights on his AT&T DSL were down. And through an email couple back and forth, we ended up calling the support tech for AT&T, and they went out there, and we did not have to. So again, a good example of asking the right questions. Next story is another story of how what you are told and what you find are two separate things sometimes in IT. So I got a phone call, first of all. Hey, this person wants to connect to our wireless network in his apartment. We also have 2 apartment complexes that we own at work. And his old USB NIC got actually tore off the front of the computer. Do you think that you could order one for us to take care of it? Sure. So I ended up getting a USB wireless NIC and went out there and installed it. And after I installed it, I did an IP config, and sure enough, hey, he has a wired connection too. And it's working. And it's from Comcast. That's not what I was told. So a little bit more investigation, and he has adware all over his computer. Toolbars and just junk. He also has an out-of-date Avast, and just basically a mess. So after uninstalling the toolbars, the adware, the unused Avast, now he can connect to the internet through his Comcast connection. And I set him up with Microsoft Security Essentials, updated his Internet Explorer, updated the kind of the big 3, Flash, Java, and Reader, and he was ready to go. And just an example of how what you hear and what you find out sometimes are two separate things. But that's okay. That's what makes the job interesting. And I don't fight as many viruses as I used to, thanks to our really strong antivirus. So, yeah, it was a good learning experience. So I saw an issue at work of we had multiple computers that we were going to sell, but nobody knew if the hard drives were good or bad, if they'd been wiped, so we had to pull them. And I also had 7 laptops earlier this year, old, that I replaced. What do I do with them? I don't know what I do with them. Do I throw them away? Actually, recycle is a better option. Do I wipe, not wipe the drives? Obviously, the answer is wipe. So I've came up with a process for work that we will be using to decommission the drives. And in a nutshell, what it means is we're going to DDoS all the drives we can physically access, and any of the drives that we can't physically access, we'll be using the Darren's boot and nuke and using the DoD short standard to wipe the drive 3 times. And with that in place, we will now know if a drive has been wiped and whether or not we can sell it in a sale or recycle it. Okay, we made it through all the work stories. Woohoo! So now I'll tell you a few personal stories that I've been working on. So I've noticed something really weird, and if somebody has an answer of why this is, but curious. So at my new apartment and the computer with adware, if you plug directly into the cable modem, it gives you a public IP address. And I just don't get it, why there's not NATing, and why there's not, there's potentially a firewall, but it's just a bad practice. And I'm really astonished that a ISP would allow a computer to be directly on the internet and not through a NAT. So, beats me. If somebody wants to tell me why Comcast and this other ISP is giving laptops and desktops public IPs, I'm all for it. I'm going to actually play this because I think it's called Chocolate, but it is a cool service.
Chocolate.
Oh, Chocolate. And I'll give you a link. And what it is there is a app-get for Linux, apt-get, and you can download a package. And a package can be anything from a part of a program to the whole program itself, and then it installs it for you. So it's kind of cool. And what this does is allows you to do the same thing for the Windows. And they have a large repository of software that you can install. So I've been playing around with it on my Windows 8.1 VM. So it's pretty cool, and I'm contemplating writing a script using it to update computers. So yeah, we'll see. Something else I did last month is I told you that I have been using a CrashPlan server for my backups, and I've used it for about 2.5 years, and it was in my parents' basement, and I'm using past tense. So as I stated, my sister was getting married and she's moving out of my parents' house. So with that being said, my dad's going to turn off the internet and the connection to my server. That's bad. So for years I've been a little bit anti-cloud, not so much as a service, but keeping your data up there. I guess I'm too paranoid, but I finally took the plunge, and I knew I had to do something for backup. So now I'm using Google Drive, and for 100 gigs, it's $2 a month. That's more than reasonable, and it would be about the same. No, actually, it would be way more expensive to take over my dad's internet bill. So I guess I'm okay with it. Now, there's certain documents that I've yet to upload to Google Drive, so I guess I'm still a little paranoid, but so far, been happy with it. And I do have to admit, troubleshooting internet connections with CrashPlan was not always my favorite trip, so I think I'm happy with it. Next story I have is the fan on my laptop was getting incredibly loud, and it was to the point where it was just annoying. And I was also thinking my laptop is getting a little hot. So I took some canned air, blew out the fan. Sure enough, it's a lot quieter and not as hot. So, good idea of told in Healthy Living to listen to your body. It's also okay to listen to your computer sometimes. Also, I wanted to talk to you about audiobooks on YouTube. If you search on YouTube for a book name and then an audiobook, most likely somebody's uploaded the whole thing, and then you can either listen to it right there, or you can save it to your computer. So if you're interested in finding some cool audiobooks, I'd suggest giving that little search a try. So right now in the news is iCloud and celebrity nude photos leaked. And the last article I read was yesterday, And we're really not sure yet how it happened, but I kind of think that it was a little bit more probably social engineering than it was a fault on Google, excuse me, Apple, because it just seems too, it's not broad enough. It's a very narrow group of people they attack. And if they would have got the entire access to the photo database, then there would be terabytes and terabytes of photos, and not all of celebrities, but it's only celebrities. So I kind of think myself that it was probably a little bit more of a social engineering attack, and they just happened to know the email, happened to guess the password, or happened to answer the questions correctly, do some Googling to figure out what are the most possible answers, like, so what high school did Jennifer Lawrence go to? Well, Google it, you can find the answer, and maybe that was one of her security questions. So that's my take on it, and I'll be curious to see how exactly they did it. Alright, I told you we'd also talk about photography a little. So, I may have mentioned before, the program I'm using to manage and edit most of my photos is Picasa, and it's made by Google, and I've been doing some reading, and it really sounds like they're done updating it. There will be no more updates. We've been on version 3 for years, so the service will maybe move to the cloud one day. For now, it really is a great alternative to Lightroom, which is an Adobe product. Lightroom is granted only $80. It's not that expensive, but $80 compared to free, I think I'll take my chances. Another program I've been playing with is Faststone, and it's similar to Picasa. You actually have more control over the contrast and balance and sharpness, but you don't have the Google Plus photo integration. It also feels like an older program, and I don't believe it's been updated since 3 years ago. So it feels old, but it gives you a little more power. It's not as powerful as GIMP or Photoshop, or frankly not as hard to learn. So I'd also recommend giving Faststone a try. And something else that I've ran into recently is there's 2 specs on the mirrors inside my body of my DSLR. And I spent an hour and a half, well actually originally I only had one, I gave myself a second dust speck trying to remove this. And I finally had to give up in fear of damaging my camera after unscrewing and screwing in a lens 25 times. So it doesn't affect the quality of the picture because it's the mirror and not the sensor. However, if you know of a way to get off the 2 specks of dust, I would definitely appreciate it. So, with that, thank you for listening, everybody, and I look forward to your comments, and please leave a suggestion. So, I will see you next month. Thank you. Goodbye.